morning. Good morning. How the devil are you all doing this fine day? Hope you all had a good weekend. Can anybody hear a weird kind of whistling in the background? I'm fairly sure it's just at my end, but I've got a bit of a whistle in one of my ears. Probably my own tinnitus I can hear, but there you are. Dan Cullen says, all good. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. How are we all doing? I don't know about you, but I had one busy ass weekend. On Friday night, we launched our petition to get some justice, long overdue, but to get some justice for the families of the 4 men killed at the Didcot power station back in 2016. I then spent Friday night, Saturday morning, pushing that far and wide. And that then led me down a rabbit hole of YouTube videos talking about the power of communities. And then yesterday, I spent way too much time reconfiguring our Buy Me a Coffee page. I'll tell you more about that a bit later. But suffice to say, I'm in the process of creating a members-only area in which our paying members will get certain benefits and the like. As I say, I'll tell you more about that at some point. I am still figuring it all out. So watch this space. Alternatively, you can hop over to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news, and you can see it all taking shape. Entirely up to you. Dan Cullen says he hears nothing. Bit windy here. Bit windy here too. Yeah. We lost a tile off the side of the house on Saturday night. Blowing a hoolie. Here it was. Jim Turner's just joined us. Good morning to you, Jim. Good morning to Gary Muirhead, to Mark Whiting, and I'm sure I saw Alex Latham go through there as well. He's there as well. And as Dan Cullen says, it is time to rock and roll. It is time to rock and roll. Yes, going back to the Buy Me a Coffee thing, not going to dwell on that too much because the focus right now is to get as many signatures as I possibly can on our Didcot petition. So I'll be telling you more about that. Be telling you more about that after the show. But while I'm about it, if you would like the link to that petition, you will find it in the chat right about now. Yeah, that looks like that's appeared. So if you haven't signed it, please do so. If you haven't shared it, please do that as well. Without further ado, I'm going to roll the intro and get this damn show on the damn road. It is Monday, the 9th of September. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, Weidemann raises the bar, John Deere unleashes the power, Komatsu will put machine rebuilds front and centre at my Expo, and I'll have a question for you for our last film, and that question will be, what the hell are these people advertising? It will make perfect sense when you see it, trust me. Plus, in my morning monologue, there won't really be a morning monologue today because I want to be talking about our new campaign to bring justice to the families of the Didcot 4. I'll tell you more about that when we get there. But before we get to all that, we do have the small matter of today's Mystery Machine and our Excavator World Cup. I'll come to that in a moment, but here's the Mystery Machine. Right, Mystery Machine. Break out your glasses, break out your magnifying glasses, reach for the tablet, whatever it takes to get a nice big picture of the following, because this is what you have to work with this morning. There you are. If anybody's got any notion on what that might be, please let us know in the chat. And while you're figuring that out, let me play this for you. Now, if somebody had asked me to predict the names of the last 8 contenders in our Excavator World Cup way back when we started, never in a month of Sundays would I have said that Kubota and Atlas would still be among them. But they are, for now at least. One of them will be going home today, while the other will go into the semi-finals alongside Volvo, Kobelco and Caterpillar. But which one, in your opinion, is the best? I'm You all know this by now, but I've just granted you £150,000 of imaginary money. You have to buy an excavator or more than one, but you can only choose between those two brands, Kubota or Atlas. Which one are you going for? Which is the best? The manufacturer with the most votes will go forward to the next round, while the manufacturer with the least will be going home, falling at the last. And I can tell you, and I'll come back to that at the end of the show, can tell you, all things being equal, and that's assuming that my maths is correct, on Thursday this week, we will actually crown our Excavator World Champion, if my maths is correct. So let's see what you've got going on in the chat. We'll take that away. Let me get to the right place. Ken Hatcher is enjoying a day off, and he's got the Black Hole Sun. Soundgarden will be so proud. There you are. That's what he's saying. I think this is a Mystery Machine guest. Jim Turner is saying, could it be a Cat 994 or 995? It is not. Gary Muirhead reckons it could be a D9 Dozer. It is not one of those. A Cat 6090 FS, says Dan Cullen. It is none of those things. Let me show you a smidgen more. There you are. That's what you're working with. Chris Ford has just arrived. Morning, gang. Nearly no show Monday. Didn't realise what the time was. See, I find this staggering, Chris. I find it staggering when anyone's late. Surely by now, 4.5 years in, you've either become so attuned to watching my ugly mug at this time of the morning, or you've got an alarm set. Do those things not happen? Is that just me? Dan reckons it could be a Bucyrus RH 400. It is not one of those. Dan Cullen reckons it could be a Hitachi EX8000-7. It's not. I'll tell you what it is. It's one of them. There you are, Jim Turner, straight away. Komatsu PC 8000. I mean, it's actually the Dash 11, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. There you are, Jim Turner has got some points on the board. Let me write those down just so that I remember. So, yes, well done, Jim. You've got the right answer. It is indeed the Komatsu PC 8000-11. Dan Cullen had guessed the Cat D11. Not a bad guess, but not right. And there's Komatsu D575 Dozer. I think the colour had led people in the right direction to Komatsu, but yeah, our man Jim Turner got the right answer. So I'll take that away. We don't need that anymore, and I'll go back to this. We have, as it stands at the moment, we have two votes so far for Atlas. Anybody else got any further thoughts? Are you an Atlas man, or are you a Kubota man or woman? I'll take it either way. And just to recap very quickly on this, let me just check the points. What have we got? Dan Cullen is currently leading the way in the Mystery Machine League table for September. He has got 6 points. Alex Latham, Jim Turner, and myself all have 3. There you are. Chris Ford says, never set an alarm for years, done 4 hours already today. Blimey. I won't do that many after the show is finished. Chris Ford is voting for Atlas as well. Yeah, looking very good for Atlas at the moment. That's what we're looking at. Dan Cullen also going Atlas. Mark Whiting also going Atlas. It looks, much to my astonishment, I'm bearing in mind we have a final or a semi-final that doesn't include the likes of Liebherr and Hitachi, and yet Atlas could, well, by the looks of it, absolutely will be there. Absolutely will be there. Did not see that coming. This show is nothing if not predictable. Right, take that away and keep those votes coming in, because I'm going to be right back with the first item of news, which is something brand new from the fine folks at Weidemann. It's been a while since we've done a hot or not, so I think it's time we did one. I'm going to play you a 52-second video in just a second, showing you a brand new machine from the fine folks at Weidemann, and I would like you to decide whether you believe it to be hot or not. Just vote hot or not. I don't even know why I tell you the rules. You'll know this better than I do. Hot or not, the new Weidemann. I'm putting my name against hot, but see, let me know what you think. While you're doing that, I've already mentioned the fact that I'm currently reconfiguring our Buy Me a Coffee page, basically turning it into a bit of a membership area. So be able to offer member offers that will live behind a firewall. So you could pay to be a member and stuff. This is where Buy Me a Coffee lives.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Right. Before we get into anything else, Milk Norton has just joined us. Hi, Mark. Read your piece comparing Didcot and Grenfell investigatory processes. Compare these to the fatal Swedish hoist act incident last December. Full and comprehensive report completed within weeks. The UK simply amateurish by comparison with CPS, HSE, and police due radical. By comparison, CPS, HSE, and police due radical reform. Yeah, absolutely. Mick, I don't know if you actually went on to see the fact that we've started a petition to try and get Thames Valley Police to pull their finger out on all things related to Didcot. I can post a link to that in the chat if you would be so kind as to sign that. But yes, we did actually cover that Swedish hoist incident. And also, I'm going to throw it up again, but just one more time. Within about 2 years of Didcot coming down, obviously it was a power station boiler house that collapsed. There was a similar incident over in Ohio in the States. 2 men killed in that. Bodies recovered in a month rather than 7 months. And that whole thing was investigated, prosecuted, and case closed within 18 months. Whereas we are at 8.5 years and counting. So that's why I've started the petition. I'll tell you more about that after the show. Chris Ford says, think I'm going to be like the Eurovision, English Eurovision entry in this month's Mystery Machine. Nil point. Nil point. There's a little bit of me, because I'm not a fan of the type of music that makes it into the Eurovision Song Contest. There is a little bit of me that has a certain pride when the Brits get nil point. Because that's not representative of our music at all. Dan Cullen, have you seen the vid Nigel put up on autonomous vehicles and what may happen? Was a good video. I haven't seen that. I'll go and dig that out. Dan Cullen reckons that the Weidemann was a hot little loader, and Gary Muirhead says, I feel your pain, Chris Ford. You did okay last month, Gary. You got a couple, I think, last month. Was it a couple? Was it one? Can't remember. Keep the votes coming in on this. I think it's all over bar the shouting for Kubota, because Atlas is running away with it. But if you haven't voted already, then please do so. I'm going to be back in just a moment. I'll do this first.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, tell you more about that some other time. But John Deere got a new video. Wheel loader. It's kind of cool. Yeah. Good morning, Earl Fallon, over on Instagram. Now, Gary Muirhead has just asked a question, and it's a question about a question, funnily enough. When does the question of the day start back, or doesn't it? Well, I've already got this in my script, and I will come to it again a bit later on. But if my math is correct, we've got a semi-final of the Excavator World Cup tomorrow. We've got another one on Wednesday, which means that the grand final will be on Thursday. We will find out at long last who the Excavator World Champion is. Which means we will then have that bit of the show will now be a gap. So I'm asking you, much the same as Gary has just asked me, do we bring back the question of the day, in which case Gary and I are going to have to put our thinking caps on and come up with a new bunch of questions that we've never asked before? Or do we extend the Excavator World Cup into a branch of equipment, another category? But off the top of my head, the one that was that struck me as the most obvious was mini excavators, because there's a lot of mini excavators out there, and I'd love to get your feelings on those. So, over to you. Would you like the question of the day back, or would you like to carry on with the World Cup idea, but we'll do it this time with mini excavators? Let me know. And while you're thinking about it, bear in mind, Gary Muirhead says he's enjoying his retirement. So, yes, maybe towards the Mini Excavator World Championships. Yes, if only we could experience the joy of John Deere in this country. I wonder what the response would be. I wonder what the response would be if they were to do that, if they would suddenly pitch up. I reckon they would stop a few people in their tracks. And our friend Mick is here as well. Mick, glad you've arrived, because we will be talking all things Didcot a bit later in the show, all of which was at least partly inspired by you. So stick around for that if you have the time, and if your dog can cross his legs for long enough. Now, on with the show. So you know how this show is the thought leader of the industry. We come up with the ideas, and then the industry picks them up and runs with them. Sort of. We spoke a few weeks back, possibly even a few months back, about the notion of sustainability and new equipment. How long can we justify keep replacing old equipment with new equipment? When are we going to start to make do amend? Give machines a second or possibly even third life. And I did actually question at the time, how long until we get rebuilt machines on display at major exhibitions? Seemed far-fetched. Turns out Komatsu may have been listening, because they are planning to showcase Komatsu rebuilds at Mine Expo in just a couple of weeks' time. Very smart. And as Gary Muirhead says, echoing the sentiments we had before, it makes perfect sense to me. Reman older equipment that still works perfectly well, and just give it a new lease of life and some upgrades to more modern technology. Totally agree. I asked whether Mick was planning to dive off and walk his dog. He's already done that, which is why he's late. Now, important point. Mick is aware of the Didcot petition that we're doing. He says, as soon as the boy's back from buying new tyres for his jalopy, I will bang the 11 quid in for the fund. Don't bother, Mick. It is not necessary. It is not necessary. Basically, it's change.org is, I think it's government owned. And they use those donations to basically widen the audience for the viewership, and it has given us some subscribers or signatories, should I say? But it is absolutely not necessary. Your vote will count regardless of whether you make a donation or not. So please don't feel obliged. And let's face it, 11 quid just to put your money where your mouth where your money is. That's not necessary. So please just hit the button and log your support. So I'm afraid it looks like we're dragging Gary Muirhead out of retirement, because Jim Turner says, my mate who doesn't listen to the show comes back after Snap and asks me every day what the question of the day is. So he definitely wants it back. Funnily enough, my wife is exactly the same. Exactly the same. What is the question of the day today? Even if it's completely machine related, she still tries to answer it. Don't know why. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen. Yes, definitely. Question of the day needs to return. Jim Turner, going back to this. Never. We're consumers, and the majority of things need to be new, or the knock-on effect will cause a world recession. But like our country and housing, we have to keep letting people in to maintain a housing shortage, because if we ever catch up, the whole economy implodes. It's a Ponzi scheme of the highest order. All I would say about that is, when it comes to buying new, yes, and listen, it's going to be a horses for courses. Are you going to reman a micro excavator? Probably not. Are you going to reman a skid steer? Probably not. Are you going to reman a site dumper? Probably not. But if you're talking about a big dozer, big dump truck, a big face shovel that you've paid $2-3 million for, to get another life out of that, not a bad idea, I don't think. Gary says, no, that's, hang on a minute. Looks like we'll have to get our thinking caps on, Mark. Yes, it does indeed. And I thought Change.org was owned by a couple of American fellas. It may well be. It may well be. The only interaction I've had with Change.org up until now is where I've actually put my name to various surveys or petitions over the years, mainly political type stuff. So, yes. Mick says, okay, what about setting up something from your end? Think we would all put in? This is the subject of the chat afterwards, and I've been trying desperately to keep the two things separate, which for obvious reasons. You know, I'm not looking for this petition about Didcot to be self-promoting. In fact, if there's anything I really do dislike, it's my connection with the whole Didcot thing. However, because I've been going down this road, and I will tell you all about it in just a moment. When I've been involved in Didcot before, it's cost me a bloody fortune. I make no bones about it. You know, every time I've had to give up a day to go and be on TV or on the radio, whatever it might be, cost me money and so on down the line. So I am beavering away in the background to make it possible for you to support this show via buymeacoffee.com. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Dan, 100% Jim, I feel these illegal immigrants should be sent back, as this is why we're struggling. The tax man taking the brunt, yet they can pay criminals $5,000 for a journey on a boat, says Dan. When I walked the dog this morning, he buggered off in front of me as shone the torch around the field to find him. There was a pair of eyes looking at me from the far side of the field. I called him back only to find he was behind me. That fox doesn't know how lucky he was. Been there a few times, yeah. And we've got quite, well, not where I'm now, but in our last house, had quite a population of deer. And I remember walking one of my boxer dogs past a deer once, and I spotted the deer too. I mean, dog was off the lead. I spotted the deer when I was about 6 feet from it, and the thing stood stock still. And you could see my boxer dog sniffing the ear as best a boxer dog could do. Knew there was something, couldn't see it, and the deer waited for us to edge past, and off it went. Sorry, mate, I'm on the edge as what is going to be said. You know my feelings. Yeah, okay. We'll come to that in just a moment. So I'm going to do one last film, and in actual fact, the last film today, I'm going to do it in two parts. So we'll be right back after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I was sent a video over the weekend from an equipment manufacturer. And I've got to be honest with you, if it had landed, if I didn't know where it had come from, I would have watched the first half of the video scratching my head because I had no idea what the video was actually trying to sell me. So, to give you a recreation of the feeling that I had, I've actually split the video in half. The first half, I'm going to play it for you in just a second. It's only 35 seconds long. And I would like you to try and figure out from the first half of the video what it is, the company, well, who the company is and what they're trying to sell. So here's the first part. I'll play you the second part in just a moment. Right. So what do you think? Champagne? Holidays in Paris? I've got to be honest. When I got to that point, I had no idea. Dan Cullen said, food, dresses, wine, and a lovely lady. Lee Pear, a crane? No idea. Mostly diggers. I am confusion. Oh, I am confusion too. So that was the first half of the video, and then it kind of goes slightly right at a tangent, and all becomes clear. Now, bearing in mind the build-up, you know, the supermodel, the champagne, the Parisian skyline, this is what it was all about. Yep. So the Chinese do things very differently. Okay, so using the hot young lady in the advert, yeah, we've all seen that before. What I'm struggling to understand is, and maybe they shot that at Intermat. They were at Intermat, so maybe that was it. But why are they showing the Parisian skyline when they're advertising mining Indonesia? I've no idea. The Chinese are a law unto themselves. Dan Cullen, lol, zoom line. Have they moved the Eiffel Tower overnight? Not as far as I know. Holidays in Italy? I think you need to break out the glasses there, Dan. God knows. But I doubt it's aimed at me. Phones or lippy? No, excavators. I mean, obviously, they are so easy to confuse, aren't they? You know, a 30-ton excavator and a lipstick. Let's carry your head. I think summing up the feelings of us all. WTF. Now, that can swim in my bucket any day. Might need a bit of a clean. Marketing video producer has IQ of an ice cube, says Mick Norton. Yeah, but quite a big budget. Quite a big budget, I would have thought. We're here. We now know who the semi-final is going to be. There you are. That's what our match looks like today. I can tell you, the latest round of our Excavator World Cup competition pitted Atlas against Kubota, but which brand came out on top? Well, we put it to the public vote, and I can tell you that the resounding winner is Atlas. Atlas goes forward to the next round, which is actually the semi-final, while sadly Kubota leaves us. Tomorrow's match is the first of our semi-finals, and it sees Kobelco going up head-to-head against Kobelco. So make sure you tune in and take part. And if my maths is correct, there's no guarantee of that, but if my maths is correct, we should know who the world champion is by Thursday this week. which throws up again, and I will reiterate this, do we want to bring back the question of the day, or do you want to do a World Cup Championships on a new machine category? Let me have your thoughts. We'll come in. No, is O&K still in it? No, O&K fell out. I can tell you I'll tell you exactly who the semi-final is. The semi-finals are Volvo versus Kobelco and Caterpillar versus Atlas. Now, personally, I would have expected Kobelco and Volvo to be in the grand final because they're very good. But no Komatsu, no Hitachi, no Liebherr, and yet somehow, through possibly the luck of the draw, or because they're way better than anybody gives them credit for, Atlas is still there. Dan, no word of Zoomline coming here yet. They are drawing inexorably closer. I mean, obviously they were showing off their wares at Intermat, so they were only 26 and a bit miles away over in France, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if they were to pitch up in the very, very near future. So that pretty much resolves all of that. Not so much of a monologue today. Well, I'll get to it in just a moment. I'm going to roll the end of the show stinger in just a second before leaping gazelle like him to what should be my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, then please do stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon, ideally tomorrow. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back with kind of a morning monologue immediately after this. Today's morning monologue is less a monologue and more a plea for help. If you were watching or listening last week, you will know that we spent a lot of time speaking about how the publication of a report into the causes of the Grenfell Tower tragedy had edged the bereaved families there a little bit closer to justice and hopefully a degree of closure. You'd also recall that there is still no such promise of justice for the families of the 4 men killed at the Didcot A power station back on the 23rd of February 2016. It was suggested by Jim Turner, I think. It was suggested that I start a petition, partly to raise awareness of the failure of the 8.5-year investigation, and partly to call for a public inquiry into the intransigence of Thames Valley Police and the Health and Safety Executive. So, after the show on Friday, I set out to find a suitable platform to host just such a petition. It turns out that the aptly named change.org had the solution. And you can see a link for that in the chat. When I get to the chat, bear with me 1 second. I need to go over to there and press that button there. There we are. Now, my timing is not great, or my timing was not great. The petition went live on Friday night when most people were offline and down the pub and out for dinner with their loved ones. However, we did quickly get our first 100 signatures. This morning, I've sent out an email blast to all of the Demolition News subscribers, and I'll be sending out another, this time to the Demolition Insider subscribers on Wednesday morning this week. Now, I know some of you have already signed up, but if you haven't, can I please urge you to do so? But individual signatures are not enough. If this petition is going to gain any real traction, we need a lot more. So could I please urge you to share the link among family, friends, colleagues? I've got to be honest, I don't even know what number would make this petition a success. Does it require 500 signatures, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000? I've honestly no idea. All I do know is that because we're doing this through change.org, Thames Valley Police are already aware that the petition is taking place. So, regardless of how many signatures we actually get, they will be under no illusion about our anger and our dissatisfaction. Now, I have to be honest and transparent with you at this point. I'm going into this with a fair degree of trepidation. First and foremost, I'm a journalist, not an activist. But secondly, I have been down this road before, and it cost me a lot. As you all know, I'm self-employed and I only get paid when I'm actually working, when I'm doing this or typing on a keyboard. In the immediate aftermath of Didcot and in the 8 years since, I've been on TV probably 30, possibly even 40 plus times. I've lost count of the number of times I've been on the radio or had to give up time to speak to a local or national newspaper. And every time I've done one of those things, it's cost me money. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not passing around the begging bowl here. There are some things here that are worth more than money, and I firmly believe this is going to be one of them. I didn't want it to be, but this is likely to be the defining thing of my career. But it needs to be a success, because let's face it, no one else is speaking up for the families of those 4 men. I think the families have been forgotten. They don't have quite the reach that maybe I have, and that maybe you guys have as well. And we can't. It's very, very clear that we can't rely upon trade associations and industry bodies. They have let those families down as well. So, can I please urge you once again to share the link across social media? And when you've shared it, share it again. Then share it tomorrow, and share it again on Wednesday. Share it in the morning and share it in the evening. You know how this industry of ours works. Some people might not be in a position to sign when they receive the message. Some of you guys are driving machines at the moment. You haven't got time to stop and fanning around on your phone trying to sign petitions. By the time you get home, you may well have forgotten about it. So please, please, please share, share, and share again. I honestly don't know. I don't know if we can actually make a difference. All I do know is that I'm going to give it a bloody good go. So that link again it's very, very easy to remember. It is change.org, O-R-G, /Didcot, D-I-D-C-O-T, 4, F-O-U-R. So change.org, Didcot 4. Failing that, I have posted the link in the chat, and it's over in our WhatsApp group as well. As I say, I don't know what I'm letting myself in for. I don't know quite how we will measure the success or possible failure of it. I honestly have no idea. What I can tell you is, as of right now, where are we? Let me just give it a quick refresh. We are currently at 126 signatures. 126. I can see Mike Ponsonby, Andrew Dale, Paul McHale are among the most recent signatories. Chris Giblin, Robert Wild. Robert Wild was actually at Didcot on the day it happened. Chris Dobson as well. Yeah, lots and lots of names. John Kelly. Matt Malloy is there as well. So lots and lots of people, but we need a lot more. Dan, I'm looking at you in particular because you've got your WhatsApp groups. Please do your best to get it out to your guys, because one of the things that keeps coming back to me about the whole of Didcot, and not specifically Didcot, I would say exactly the same about Redcar or Long Gannet or any of these things. This is a there but for the grace of God thing. You know, there's a lot of you guys that are actually out on site at the moment, behind the levers of machines and what have you. It would be nice to think that were something to happen to you, God forbid, but were something to happen to you, that the industry would rally to the aid of your family. You are of this industry, and this industry is of you. Based on my experience over the past 8.5 years, that is not necessarily the case. And we've all got very, very busy lives. I understand that. When Didcot first happened, you know, for 2, 3, 4 weeks, there was lots and lots of outcry online, on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all those places. But that's gradually dwindled because everybody's gone back to work. And unless you were, you know, unless you knew one of the guys that was killed, unless you knew the families, or unless you had been working at the site at some point in the past, it doesn't necessarily impact you in quite the same way. So the media has largely forgotten about Didcot. Politicians have largely forgotten about Didcot. And I hate to say it, but the industry has largely forgotten about Didcot as well. So obviously, we're looking for a public inquiry to get Thames Valley Police to explain themselves on why 8.5 years later they still have offered no explanation. But more than that, I think we need to put this back into the eye line of the industry. There is every likelihood post Grenfell that there will be changes in the way that construction is procured and managed and run. Didcot should be the same. Now, we've already done away with virtually all of our coal-fired power stations, so I don't expect the change brought about by the Didcot disaster to necessarily be in terms of methodology, although I'm sure there are other countries that might potentially learn from anything that we find. Where I think if the 4 guys that died at Didcot are not to have died in vain, there needs to be a shake-up of the industry to ensure, hopefully ensure, that nobody else is killed in quite the same way, but also that going forward, no bereaved families are required to wait for almost a decade for answers. And if our petition, our little old petition, cooked up in 10 minutes, if that can push things towards that, then frankly, our work here is done. Mick Norton says, in 2022, I asked HSE why no public inquiry for Didcot. They replied, HSE sees no need for a public inquiry, with the ongoing investigation being the priority. The issue is, I think it's a long, long, long time, more than 8 years, since Didcot was actually a priority to either the Health and Safety Executive or to Thames Valley Police. Just to be clear, primacy here rests with Thames Valley Police. As much as I'm critical of the HSE can only act once the police have done their investigation. So the HSE are in the luxurious position to be able to sit back, twiddle their thumbs and wait for the police to pull their finger out. But are they applying any pressure? Are they calling upon the police to do anything? And when you think, frankly, I'm not entirely convinced that the police force is necessarily the right people to investigate an incident of this nature anyway. But when you think about all that they have on their plates already, they'll have knife crime, gun crime, prostitution, drugs, gang issues, and all the things that the police force up and down the country have got to deal with, all of which are happening in real time right now. There'll probably be a road traffic accident in the Didcot area within the next couple of hours. There will have been a stabbing over the weekend. Somebody would have been abducted. Somebody would have been sexually assaulted or harassed. Somebody would have been beaten up outside a pub. All of which requires the police to act right here, right now. And I think all the time that's happened, Didcot and the investigation into it has been pushed further and further and further onto the back burner. In fact, it's so far on the back burner, it's now slipped down the back of the oven. I think that's the absolute truth. Let's have a look. Mick says, now it's time for the NFDC. If they do not, then as far as I'm concerned, it will be the final nail. They've had 8.5 years. I think that final nail was already in the coffin. They've had 8.5 years to speak up. Holding a minute or a 4-minute silence at one of their AGMs to mark the passing of those 4 guys doesn't achieve anything. Doesn't achieve anything. Would I like the NFDC to sign up to the petition? Of course I would. Because they could probably bring another 100 odd people along with them, which would boost the numbers and make Thames Valley Police even more keen to act. But after 8.5 years, are they really going to do that? And if they do, are they really going to make a difference? All I would say is, and I said this last week, the NFDC, one of the things that made the NFDC great for the first 70 odd years of its existence was that it led the industry. It came up with the ideas, it came up with the schemes, it came up with the campaigns and initiatives. It doesn't do that anymore. So at best it might, and I very much doubt it because I'm linked with it. At best, all they can do now is jump on the bandwagon and show their support for it. But I genuinely don't expect them to do so. They do seem to work on the basis of, if it's not invented in Hemel Hempstead, it doesn't count. Which is, obviously to their detriment. Dan Cullen, thank you very much indeed, Dan. I've shared it with my WhatsApp groups. I think 100k, it goes to Parliament. Yeah, 100k. Well, listen, let me give you a bit of insight. And I've got to be honest, I wasn't aware this was the case. I can show it to you. Let me have a look. Share my screen. Share that. Share. You are now looking what I'm looking at. So over on that circle bit, you can see 126 supporters so far. Only 70 more supporters for the next goal. So obviously the next goal is 200. But you can see that the petition has had 6,022 views 53 people have shared it, including our friend Dan and various others. 7 people have helped promote it. That's, in other words, they've made a contribution. But 6,000 people have viewed this, and you'd have to think. I'm bearing in mind I sent an email blast out to about 40,000 people this morning. You would have to think that 6,000 people have viewed it, and only 126 have actually bothered to click the link. Which is, listen, it's disappointing. It is disappointing. You know, I would have thought we had a very strong argument with this. And admittedly, because this is a few people have donated, so it's been shared beyond the industry as well, but not to 6,000 people. Most of that 6,000 will have come from what we've done as a website. 6,000 people have looked at it and gone, ah. Or maybe they've looked at it and thought, oh, I'll have a look at that properly when I get home. In which case, all the more reason to share it and share it again. I'm going to very quickly refresh it, see if the numbers are still changing, or whether no, it's still stuck at 126. Mick says no one knows why or how this happened. There is speculation and even what has been said in statements. If the police have still not made any decision, then take the police out of the equation. No matter how many experts they have used, the police know nothing of demolition. In my view, they have no idea what they're doing. I will go back. You may remember I spoke to Dr. Terry Quarmby about this. Terry was approached to be an expert witness on this, and he declined because in his opinion, the health and safety executive were not equipped to handle an investigation of this kind. The one thing I will say about the HSE, you know, they're slow, they're tardy, they're understaffed, they're undervalued, funded and everything else. What I would say is that at least they do have fairly regular contact with Demolition. And Terry Quarmby, despite that, had no faith in their ability to handle this investigation. So what hope have the boys in blue up at Thames Valley Police got? And let me be absolutely clear here. I'm not actually judging them for it. My personal feelings on Thames Valley Police really don't come into it. As I say, they have got low level, medium level, and high level crime to be dealing with. And if somebody is stabbed in Didcot High Street, they need to respond right here, right now. So the fact that an 8-year investigation doesn't get looked at today, I fully understand that. But if you're not able to do it, then pass it the fuck on. Pass it to somebody that can. Pass it to somebody that will take the evidence that you've amassed and analyze that properly. Take a step back and let somebody else deal with it. Dan Cullen says, if you're free later, Mark, I'll drop you a text. Please do. Please do. I will be here all afternoon. I've got bunches of stuff to do, including spending a bit more time on our buy me a coffee thing, which I'm determined that the two things do not clash. I don't want to be seen in any way to be potentially profiting from this. I mean, I'll push back the buy me a coffee thing. I'll beaver away out in the background, but I'll push it back weeks, months if necessary, so that this has its own time in the sun. Peter McKenna says, I'm here in spirit even though my body isn't willing. Yeah, get well soon, Peter. Peter's down with a chest infection again. I do feel for the guy. It seems like just as he gets himself back with his feet on the pedals again, something health-wise comes along and kicks the shit out of him. So Peter, please get well soon. My thoughts, our thoughts are with you. Get well soon, my friend. Need to get you back to work. So that pretty much wraps us up for today. I will be back tomorrow and probably be talking about Didcot again, although in a lower level manner. Just to very quickly, one of the things that I'm working on the buy me a coffee end of things is, obviously, you know, you've seen these morning monologues, and I do tend to turn some of them into videos, but I'm also turning them to articles. The only place you'll be able to get those articles will be over on Buy Me a Coffee. So you'll have a full catalogue of all of this sort of stuff, and you can find out what we talked about and when and stuff, so you can refer back. So you've got a bit of a resource to go back on there. We'll be doing more as well. One of the other reasons for doing the buy me a coffee thing is also because I've just added another bunch of content to our next Site for Sore Hours, which is volume 3, which will be out before the end of the year, I promise. Mick Norton says, as any public inquiry for Didcot would be only at the behest of the Secretary of State, maybe now's the time to give Labour a crack. Yeah, it's a good idea. Good idea. You will know. I've written to, I'm fairly sure it's 2, but it could possibly be 3 different Home Secretaries in the past about Didcot, and basically got a very, very pat response that took us nowhere. But maybe now we have a new party in government, a party that is supposedly of the working people. Yeah, maybe I will do that at some point this week, and we'll get that letter off. As I say, it would be so nice to have actually got some more support, and we will keep pushing. We'll keep pushing this petition, hopefully get some more support, so we can at least point. It's Angela Rayner. She's a Home Secretary, isn't she? Yeah. Isn't she? Is she? Or is it Rachel Reeves? I can't remember. One of those. I'll find it out, and I'll drop them a line. But it would be lovely to actually be able to go there with the weight of the industry behind us. Oh, excuse me. I drank my tea just before I started the show a bit too quickly. So enough of all of this stuff and nonsense. People, go back to work. Go and have a good day. First semi-final of our Excavator World Cup tomorrow. Another mystery machine for you and stuff. And Mick Norton has rightly said, Yvette Cooper. Thank you very much indeed. So many women in government, and they all look exactly the same. That's not true at all. But, in my head, they're all interchangeable. But Yvette Cooper, she will be getting a letter from me in the very, very near future. Everybody, please go. Oh, hang on a minute. No, something else just crept in while I wasn't paying attention. Mick says, I mentioned this a few times. The demolition industry needs an independent body. I also mentioned a specialised group on demolition people from the regions of the NFDC to help in disasters such as Didcot, but no answer from the NFDC. Don't forget that Paul Ford actually put that together. Paul Ford over at can't remember the name of his company, but there is that emergency response thing, and he did reach out to the NFDC, and they basically poo-pooed it. So he's done it without them. But that's, as I say, not invented in Hemel Hempstead, doesn't count. I've given that up. But that emergency response thing does actually exist. The name of his company will come to me. Bear with me, because for reasons I don't fully understand, last night I was laying in bed and I was trying to remember the name of an actress. Didn't need it at all, but I kind of wanted to know, so I actually had to get up and go and look it up, which is a bizarre thing to do. Now the guy that what's going on here? Oh, my LinkedIn has just decided to play silly buggers. Never mind. I'll get back to you on who Paul Ford works for. But I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll discuss it all again at that point. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. I'll see you all very, very soon. Have a good one.